Alrighty, welcome to Chapter 5, Lesson 3, The Spanish-American War. Alright, so the year is 1898. The United States went to war against Spain. The war was called the Spanish-American War. The conflict lasted only about 4 months. One American official called it a quote-unquote little war, but it had big consequences. It affected Florida, Cuba, Spain, and the United States. Cuban independence. So the story of the Spanish-American War begins in Cuba. In 1895, the Cuban revolutionaries were struggling to free their country from Spanish control. Revolutionary is someone who is trying to make a major change in government. The Cuban poet Jose Marti led his fight. Marti came to Florida before the war. He asked Cubans in Key West and Tampa for support. They gave him money for supplies. So many Americans wanted to help Cuba win their independence too. Some even wanted to go to war with Spain. Early in 1898, U.S. President William McKinley sent the battleship Maine to Cuba. He wanted to protect Americans living there. So on February 15th, the ship exploded in the harbor. It sank. 266 American soldiers died. Today, many historians think the explosion was just an accident. But back then, Americans thought it was the fault of the Spaniards. So the reaction was shock and anger. But still, Spain refused to allow Cuban independence. Finally, on April 25th, 1898, the U.S. decided to go to war with Spain. So this gave Tampa an important role. Florida being very close to Cuba, the American military got ready to go to war. That's where they were. Army camps were set up in Jacksonville, Miami, Fernandina, and Lakeland. Key West became a base for the U.S. Navy. The port city of Tampa played an important role too. See, troops sailed to Cuba from there. The Tampa Bay Hotel was also important. Army officers lived there. So did Clara Barton, who was the founder of the American Red Cross. She was in Tampa organizing medical supplies. The Rough Riders trained in Tampa before they went to Cuba. The Rough Riders were a cavalry. A cavalry is a group of soldiers on horseback. We still have cavalries today. One of their leaders was Theodore Roosevelt. He would later become president of the United States of America. First question, guys. Here's your first question on page 161. Main idea and details is going to be your standard. Write one thing that each person did during the Spanish-American War. So, victory! The war was soon over. The United States quickly beat the Spanish soldiers in Cuba. A fight for freedom from Spain was also occurring in the Philippine Islands in the Pacific Ocean. Americans beat the Spaniards there too. A ceasefire was declared. So, here we go. A ceasefire is an important stop to fighting in a war. After the fighting stopped, the United States and Spain signed a treaty, which ended the war. Under the treaty, Cuba became independent. Spain also gave control of its other island colonies to the United States. This included Puerto Rico and the Caribbean. Spain also gave up Guam and the Philippines. The United States was now a powerful world leader. The war put Florida in the spotlight. Many Americans noticed Florida for the first time. As a result, more tourists and settlers came to Florida. So, question number 2, sequence. Write the missing events in the history of the Spanish-American War. You have 2 boxes that you need to fill in. Question number 3 on 163, cause and effect again. Circle the territories that the United States gained as a result of the Spanish-American War. That you'll find on the answers for page 162 under the subheading of victory. And then lastly, with the got it, number 4 is a sequence again. What happened after the United States and Spain stopped fighting? Again, you'll find that on page 162. That is 162. Number 5, this is going to make you think. The Spanish-American War just ended. How might your family's citrus business benefit from the soldiers who have decided to settle in Florida? Again, think about this. The Spanish-American War just ended. How might your family's citrus business benefit from the soldiers who have decided to settle in Florida? Again, at the bottom, stop. I need help. What do you need help with? Write it down so you can ask me. With the weight, you have a question? Write it down so that you can ask me. And then, of course, what do you know? What do you now know from reading this section? Stay tuned for Chapter 5, Lesson 4.